Good evening, everyone. Welcome back to the channel. So, I saw this story for the last couple of days and I thought, wait, what? Prince Harry and Meghan Markle are reportedly going back to Great Britain after everything. I mean, come on. We have to talk about this because if this is really happening, the irony is just too much. It has been 6 years since Megxit, 6 years since Prince Harry and Meghan Markle stepped away from royal life, packed everything up, left the UK, and eventually settled in California. And since then, we have heard a lot, my friends. We got the Oprah interview. We got the Netflix documentary. Harry's wrote Spare. There were interviews after interviews, stories about what happened behind palace walls, complaints about British press, complaints about the institution, the family drama of it all. Basically, we heard all the reasons why living UK and the royal life was necessary, especially for your girl, Meghan Markle. And now they are reportedly going back, not necessarily back as royals or working royals for now, right? For now, we don't know, but back to Great Britain. And apparently, this isn't just Harry flying over for a few days to see his dad or attend some court hearing. We're talking about Meghan Markle and their kids, the whole family. And when I read that, my first reaction was, this is going to be interesting because how do you come back or go back after everything that happened and after everything that you did and said, right? And before anybody comes after me in the comments, you guys already know where I stand. I like the monarchy. I loved Queen Elizabeth. I followed this Harry and Meghan situation for years. So am I completely neutral? No. There, I said it. But even if you love Harry and Meghan, you have to admit, this is quite the plot twist. So are we now calling this Megxit 2.0 in reverse? Because according to reports, Harry and Meghan Markle are considering establishing a home in Great Britain, while Archie and Lilibet reportedly attend school there. Now, apparently, they are not packing up Montecito and saying goodbye to California forever because they may still keep their home there, and they also reportedly have a property in Portugal, which must be nice, right? Imagine having to decide, where are we staying this month? California? Portugal? Great Britain? I don't even know how they are affording all this luxurious living without really having not the income that they thought they were going to have. And meanwhile, I'm over here deciding whether I really need to pay extra for guacamole, right? But anyways, what makes this so funny to me is that if you remember the original Megxit situation, Harry and Meghan Markle didn't initially seem to want to completely disappear from royal life. They wanted something more flexible. Basically, they wanted to step back as senior royals, become financially independent, spend time outside Great Britain, but still maintain the same connection to royal duties. And Queen Elizabeth said, big no. Basically, you're either in or you're out. There wasn't going to be this half royal, half private celebrity arrangement. And now, 6 years later, look where we are. Are they financially independent? Well, they're not working royals. They have their own businesses and projects that are apparently failing, allegedly, and they live outside Great Britain. And now they may also live part time in Great Britain. Is it part time or maybe full time? Did we just travel around the entire world to end up almost exactly where this conversation started? But here is where it gets awkward, my friend. If Harry and Meghan had left in 2020 and simply said, you know what? Royal life isn't just for us. We want to raise our children privately and we wish everybody well. I honestly think this would be a completely different conversation. But that's not what happened, right? If we remember it correctly, they left and then they talked and talked and talked. There was Oprah. Again, there was Netflix. Lots of interviews. And then Spare. And Spare was not just Harry saying royal life was difficult for me. No. We heard about William, we heard about King Charles, we heard about Camilla, about all the arguments, or some maybe. We heard about private conversations and things that normally you would expect to stay within a family. And that's where I have a hard time with this whole reconciliation story. Because imagine your sibling, your brother, your sister doing that. Imagine you have a huge argument with your sibling, and she goes on television and tells everybody about it. Then she makes a documentary, and she goes on more interviews, and then she writes a book. And 6 years later, she knocks on your door and, like, hey, what are we having for Thanksgiving? Girl, no. At minimum, you are bringing the turkey, but you are leaving. You're not staying for dinner. And now Harry wants his family back. This is where I actually have to have some sympathy for him, because regardless of everything that has happened, King Charles is still his dad, right? William is still his brother. Those relationships don't just disappear. I'm sure Harry has probably thought about what they are missing by being so far away from his family. And King Charles reportedly wants some time with his child, with his son, right? And part, yeah, of course, I completely understand, especially after everything Charles is going through with his health. At some point, you start realizing that time is borrowed, the time is time. You don't get it back. So if Charles wants to see Harry, yeah, sure, I understand. If he wants Meghan there, I do not know. If he wants Archie and Lilibet running around spending time with their grandfather, I think that's something acceptable, right? But here's the thing. Forgiving someone doesn't mean you automatically trust them again. Those are two completely different things. You can love somebody and still think, I am absolutely not telling you anything private. And that brings us to William. Apparently, William and Catherine may have concerns about Harry and Meghan becoming more involved in Great Britain again. And can you really blame them? Forget about monarchy for a second. Just think about this as a family. If private conversations I've had with my sister and with or my brother somehow ended up in a best-selling memoir, yeah, our next conversation is going to be about the weather, not about anything else personal. Because what else are you supposed to say? And William isn't just Harry's brother anymore. He is the Prince of Wales. He's going to be the king. So he has to think about more than just whether he and Harry can repair their relationship. He has to think about the monarchy. And if Harry calls and say, hey, Will, can I tell you something privately? At this point, William is probably going to go, what exactly do you mean by private? Because I would need an NDA, maybe two, and a witness too. Actually, bring a notary public there. Because this is another part that immediately caught my attention for years, right? One of Harry's biggest issues is bringing in Meghan and their children back to Great Britain because of security. This became a whole legal battle for him. He has repeatedly talked about not feeling comfortable bringing his family to the UK without the security arrangements he believes they need. Okay. But now we are hearing that the children could actually go to school in the UK. So obviously, people are wondering what changed, Terry. And maybe something did change that we don't know. Maybe there is an arrangement we don't know about. Maybe Harry now feels more comfortable. Maybe they found another solution. We don't know. But people are going to ask the question. Because we've gone from, I don't feel safe bringing my wife and children there, to potentially the kids going to school in England. And that is a pretty big change. And then there's Meghan, of course. And this is what I want to see. Because Harry moving back, that doesn't shock me as much, right? That is his home. He grew up there. He's got his family there, right? The entire history his entire history is tied into Great Britain. No matter how long Harry lives in California, there will always be a part of him connected to the UK. But Meghan Markle? Girl, after all that you've done and said, really, this is really going to be interesting because UK has not exactly been presented as Meghan's happy place over the last 6 years. She has talked about how difficult royal life was. She talked about feeling unsupported, talked about British media, and about her mental health struggles during that period. There was clearly a lot of pain associated with that chapter of her life, in her opinion. And now she may actually live there again? Really? And nothing awkward about this whatsoever? I'm sure the British tabloids will be completely normal about it, Meghan Markle. And I'm sure they will barely notice that you are there. Please. I'm sure those editors are probably already canceling their vacations to cover you going back to England. But the question now is, will Great Britain actually welcome them back? And this is where things get really interesting because King Charles welcoming Harry back is one thing. The royal family privately accepting them, if they are, is one thing. But the British public, that's a whole different story. There are absolutely people who support Harry and Meghan. We get that. And there are people who believe that Meghan was treated horribly. I don't know who they are and how many they are, but it is what it is. And there are people who think that the royal family should apologize to them. Yeah, right. And there are people who just want everybody to move on and be a family again. I understand that. But there is a lot more who remember everything that happened. And for a lot more people, Queen Elizabeth is still part of the reason there are hurt feelings over this. That's probably the part that bothers me the most as well. Because I like the Queen, the woman who spent more than 70 years serving the monarchy. And toward the end of her life, with Prince Philip being ill, then he died, right? He passed away. The Queen herself was getting older and becoming more frail. And meanwhile, all this family drama was playing out publicly. That doesn't mean Harry and Meghan Markle weren't allowed to have grievances. Of course they were. But did every grievance need to become public, Meghan Markle? That is where people struggle. There are things I don't like about my family, believe it or not. You know what I do? I call my friend. I talk to my husband about it, and I complain for 45 minutes, 1 hour. Then I feel better, and then I move on. And here's another thing. After all that happened, the monarchy survived. And that's something I think a lot of people who loves Harry and Meghan forget. When Harry and Meghan Markle left, there was so much drama surrounding it that you would have thought the entire institution was about to collapse. But it didn't. And the Queen passed away, and Charles became king, William became Prince of Wales, and Catherine became Princess of Wales. The working royal family got smaller, they adjusted, and life went on. So now Harry and Meghan are in a different position in their lives, right? Obviously, people still follow them for some other odd reasons. But the monarchy doesn't need them as working royals. That's the difference. They don't need them. They've proven for the last 6 years they don't need them. And personally, I think that line needs to stay exactly where it is. Family, yeah, of course. Royal duties, no. No. After everything you said about the royal family, now you're coming back to take on some royal duties? But again, you cannot spend 6 years telling us why royal life was terrible. Build an entire new life here in the United States. Make some money from books and documentaries discussing your royal experience. And then suddenly you go, okay, what time is trooping the collar? No, that's not how this one works, Meghan Markle. The monarchy is not a timeshare. You don't get Great Britain for Christmas, California for summer, Portugal for spring, and then reserve the Buckingham Palace balcony for special occasions. You just do not do that. And of course, the children are one part of the story where I don't think any of the criticism should land. None, right? They didn't choose this life. They are children. And if living in Great Britain means they get to know their grandfather, then yeah, that's fine. And spend some time with their cousins. I don't know. I don't know about that. I don't know what Princess Catherine feels. And she is just human after everything that Meghan Markle did to her. Right? I do not know because if I'm on her shoes, I'm not going to allow my kids. I don't know. I'm just being human at this point in time. George, Charlotte, and Louis are their cousins, but they do have their lives. And I am not going to hold them, responsible for developing that relationship. I mean, I don't know. I don't know. But that's just me. Harry and Meghan have a lot of work to do. And this is where I'm different with the adults. If Harry really wants reconciliation, I hope he gets it. But reconciliation, Harry, isn't, okay, I'm back and let's pretend nothing happened. Trust takes time. And I think Prince Harry may eventually have to acknowledge that some things probably should have stayed private. He should know that. He should know that by now. Not every argument needed to become a story, big story. And not every private conversation needed to be shared. Because William wasn't just the future king. Remember that he is your brother. And Charles wasn't just the head of the institution you were angry with. He is your dad. And Queen Elizabeth wasn't just a queen. She was your grandmother. Family relationships are complicated. And we get it. But once you invite millions of strangers into your family argument, you can't easily kick everybody back out. Think about where it started. They wanted freedom, independence, privacy, all the good things, right, that Hollywood can bring them. And 6 years later, they were talking about them coming back or going back to Great Britain. Shameless Meghan Markle. They left royal duties, but they never really left the royal conversation. And maybe they never could. Because whether Harry likes it or not, being the son of the king is always going to be part of who he is. And whether Meghan Markle likes it or not, which I know she likes it, being married to the son of the king is a huge part of why the world know her right now. It's the truth. That is just the reality. I don't think the royal family should shut Harry out forever, to be honest with you, right? And I'm talking about Harry, not Meghan Markle, because that is his family. And if Charles wants his son back in his life, sure, let him. If Harry wants to bring his children home and let them experience Great Britain, yeah, fine, right? But Christmas at Sandringham, where everybody's there, I don't know. Become working royals again? Probably not. Balcony appearances? Let's not get ahead of ourselves. And that half in, half out that Meghan Markle wants, they've already had that conversation. Again, you can forgive somebody personally without immediately handing them an institutional role again. And William especially has the right to be very, very cautious. I get that. I feel the same. We feel the same. So Meghan Markle, I hope Great Britain is going to welcome you with open arms. We know they're not going to do that. And know that the weather is still terrible and the tabloids are still there. Okay, and I have a feeling this is going to be anything but challenging for you. How about you guys? What do you think? Do you think Harry and Meghan should be welcomed back? Not as working royals, but simply as family? Do you think William should give his brother another chance? And be honest with me, if you were William, after everything that happened, would you trust Harry with a private conversation again? Because me, I am not going to do that. I'd rather talk about the weather or not even say anything. But that's it for me today. Please like and subscribe and come back again for more royal YouTube contents. Thank you so much. You have a great evening.